Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my week number 4 must-start and must-sit running backs for fantasy football in 2021. Inside today's video, we'll begin with my must-start running backs, and then halfway through the video, we're going to be getting into my must-sit running backs based upon their matchups in week number 4 of the 2021 fantasy football season. But before we get into things, I'd like to ask if you are new to the channel to please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Me and the guys over at the Awesemo Fantasy Football YouTube channel put up content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. And while you're down there, please make sure you hit that like button down below as well. It would help us out a ton. So without further ado, let's get into things. We begin with my must-starts, like I said a couple of seconds ago. We begin with James Robinson, running back of the Jacksonville Jaguars, going up against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati on Thursday Night Football. While I expect the Cincinnati Bengals to have control of this game, it appears that Urban Meyer has cracked the code, that Urban Meyer has finally figured out that, hey, I need to give the ball to James Robinson, that, hey, if I give the ball to James Robinson, we can actually move the ball up the field. Surprising, right, Urban? It's like he didn't watch any of the games from last year. Despite the fact that they barely won any games last year, that they got the #1 overall pick, the only time they were really able to move the ball efficiently last year was handing the ball to James Robinson. So hopefully, Urban Meyer saw what James Robinson did last week up against the Cardinals and continues to do that. Robinson started off slow the first 2 games of the season, but in week 3, he actually was able to get it done. He rushed 15 times for 88 yards and catching 6 passes for 46 more yards. Running backs have done well up against the Cincinnati Bengals thus far this season, so as long as Robinson is able to get that workload that he saw last week, if Urban Meyer figured out that, hey, we need to give this guy the ball more, then Robinson could have a top 5 week in fantasy football. I really believe that this is one of the best matchups for a running back up against the Cincinnati Bengals, and I just really hope that Urban Meyer remembers what happened last week and just feeds the rock to James Robinson. Hopefully the man is able to get the work that he deserves week in and week out, and this week, this matchup is just so juicy up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Next up, we have Saquon Barkley, running back of the New York Giants, going up against the New Orleans Saints. Now, last week, I'll admit that I fucked up. I'll admit that I was completely wrong about Saquon Barkley, but I still believe that the thought process was correct, because I thought that, hey, until we see Joe Judge not put a restriction on Saquon Barkley's workload to not reduce his snap count, then I don't think we can trust him, even in a good matchup up against the Atlanta Falcons. Not even a good matchup, a great matchup up against the Atlanta Falcons defense. And the thought process, at least in my mind, was still right, because had he have not been given the workload that he was given, I don't think he would have succeeded. In week number 3 up against the Falcons, he had 51 yards and a touchdown on 16 rushes, as well as 6 receptions for 43 yards. This week, he gets the New Orleans Saints defense. That had been a roller coaster ride. You remember in week number 1 how they completely shut down the Packers? And then you remember in week number 2 how they got pounded by the Carolina Panthers. And then in week number 3, the defense suffocates Mac Jones and the New England Patriots offense. So what are we going to see this week? I'm not too sure, but I do believe that when Saquon Barkley is healthy, when Saquon Barkley is given the correct amount of workload, you just have to start him every single week. So Saquon Barkley definitely has the upside to be a top 10, maybe even a top 5 fantasy running back on the week. Next up, we get into my final must start, and that is Jonathan Taylor, running back of the Indianapolis Colts, going up against the Miami Dolphins in Miami. Now, Jonathan Taylor has been a roller coaster of a ride, just like the Saints defense, for playing every single week, because Taylor has been off to a very rough start compared to what we thought. Now, we did get some good news that it appears that they're looking to trade Marlon Mack. But at the same time, is that really even good news? Because Marlon Mack has been virtually irrelevant in this offense. He's not really hampering Jonathan Taylor from succeeding. What is hampering Jonathan Taylor from succeeding is the offensive line not playing too well and the coaching not being the best, at least thus far in the season. Right now, Jonathan Taylor is the running back number 29.5 PPR, but this week, this matchup is beautiful. The Miami Dolphins defense as a whole, I would say, is really good. Their pass defense is one of the best in the NFL, but up against the run, as a Miami Dolphins fan, I'll admit it, our run defense is terrible. Jonathan Taylor should have no issue running a complete and utter train on this defense. I wouldn't be surprised if Jonathan Taylor was the best running back in fantasy football, even if the Indianapolis Colts offense isn't able to get anything going on the passing attack because Carson Wentz is clearly still injured, because Carson Wentz doesn't look that good even when he wasn't hurt. It shouldn't matter at all because on the season, the Dolphins' run defense has allowed 82 rushes for 362 yards and 4 touchdowns in 3 games. If there was ever a time for Jonathan Taylor to have that huge bounce back, to have that huge game, it would be this week up against the Dolphins defense. But before we get on in to the must-sit players of the week at the running back position, I would like to let you guys know that we have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NFL season to bring you an offer that is almost too good to be true. That is our partnership with Yahoo. Shout out to Yahoo. We have an exclusive deal that will get you guys 2 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum. You heard that right. 2 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account using the link in the video description, deposit, and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest, and we'll reach out to you via email with your coupon. If you would like immediate access, you want to play right now? Then go ahead and email us, support@awesemo.com, and we'll get you set up right now. Just to emphasize, this offer is for new Yahoo users only. If you are already a Yahoo user, you will not be eligible for this promo. Once you've signed up, you will get $10 of free site credit that you can use to enter contests. With your 2 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum, you will have access to our tools and projections specifically designed for Yahoo DFS to help you win big. Take advantage and join Yahoo today. So back on into it. My first must-sit running back of the week is Mike Davis of the Atlanta Falcons versus the Washington football team. Mike Davis looked really good last year, filling that void, filling the shoes of Christian McCaffrey. Davis hasn't really been a bust this year. I wouldn't categorize him as that, but I am worried about the fact that his upside is just limited completely by Cordarrelle Patterson. And that is some words that I never thought I would utter. That Cordarrelle Patterson was going to have actual influence on a football team in 2021. Crazy to hear. Last week, up against the Giants, Mike Davis carried the ball 12 times for 50 yards and caught 4 passes for 20 yards. And the Washington football team defense that they're playing this week has not lived up to the expectations that a lot of people set on them as being one of the best defensive units in the NFL. But with Patterson's usage for Atlanta, it's really tough to see a lot of upside for Mike Davis week in and week out. I don't think he's necessarily the worst start of the week, but compared to a lot of running backs, Mike Davis just continues to barrel his way down the rankings, and unless something changes with the usage of Cordarrelle Patterson, I'm going to continue to sit down Mike Davis. Next up, we have Tyson Williams, running back of the Baltimore Ravens, going up against the Denver Broncos in Mile High. Tyson Williams last week was a humongous swing and a miss. And I'm talking a swing and a miss so bad that the ball was already in the catcher's mitt and I swung like 5 seconds later. The running back situation in Baltimore is murky. It is about as murky as it gets, and despite looking solid in his first 2 games with the Ravens, Williams played second fiddle to Latavius Murray last week up against the Lions with 5 carries for 22 yards and 0 receptions. Those were his lowest carry and target totals of the season. While it is entirely possible that Williams will be back in the driver's seat this week, and it's a complete and utter reversal of what happened last week where Latavius Murray looked like the guy, this is a situation that appears that week in and week out, you're going to be pulling your hair out. You're not going to know whether it's Tyson Williams' week. You're never going to know if it's Latavius Murray's week. And every single time you start one of them, it's probably the wrong decision. So sit down Latavius, sit down Tyson Williams. I am very nervous about this situation. Unless we see consistency out of either back, I think you're best off just sitting both of them every week. This matchup up against Denver also just isn't the greatest. So even if Tyson Williams was the lead back in Baltimore, this would scare me a little bit. Next up, we have Damien Harris, running back of the New England Patriots, going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady versus the Patriots. Interesting storyline. With that said, Damien Harris is probably going to play like complete shit in this game, even with James White going down with a hip subluxation. That's correct. As a doctor, I know exactly how to say that word. I'm only kidding, obviously. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a guy who talks about fantasy football on the internet. The Buccaneers defense is amazing. Harris should be given more work because White is hurt and White is out for the season. But the Bucs defense is just too good against the run, and it is entirely possible that Tom Brady slaps up the Patriots. It's his homecoming. This is his game back in Foxborough. While Bill Belichick's probably going to game plan all he can, I think the Bucs are going to be too much for Damien Harris, Mac Jones, and this new offense. So I expect Damien Harris to struggle in this game. I don't think he's a complete bust on the season. I think Damien Harris is going to be solid after this game, but this matchup really does scare me, especially if the Bucs are just rolling them, and then they're not going to be able to run the ball at all. And even though James White is hurt, I'm still not 100% certain that Damien Harris is now just going to see like 8+ targets every single game. Before we get into the final must-sit running back for the week, I'd like to let you guys know that if you're looking for season-long fantasy football coverage, then we have you covered. Our NFL Express Weekly Pass is available now for only $3.95. You heard that correct, $3.95, and it is more expansive than ever, as it includes access to our trade value tool, strength of schedule tool, and fantasy streaming helper. With that, you will also get access to our NFL DFS player and ownership rankings, access to our expert Slack chat that I'm in. You guys can talk to me in there, and everything we have to offer for NFL DFS Showdown and single game contests. New this year to the package, as well as projected ownership and optimal lineup possibilities for tiers contests on DraftKings. Head on over to Awesemo Plus join page and pick up your pass for only $3.95. Stop guessing, start winning, join Awesemo Plus today. Final running back to be discussing is Tony Pollard. Everyone was giving Tony Pollard the fucking crown like he was Biggie Smalls. Everyone's talking about how Zeke is washed, how Zeke is this, Zeke is that. It's Tony Pollard season in Dallas, and guess what happened? Pals, gals, it's not. It's just not. It's Ezekiel Elliott. He's the clear number one running back. Everyone should have seen this coming, but it seemed like not everyone was about that. He's going up against the Carolina Panthers this week. Elliott is still the lead back. Pollard will get some usage, but unless it's the perfect matchup where the Cowboys are just beating down a defense, then I don't see how Tony Pollard will get enough usage to warrant a start. And his start is going to hinge heavily upon the fact that he finds a way into the end zone. And if he doesn't, you are going to be very disappointed. So this week up against the Panthers, who are a very underrated defense, this just does not seem to be the ideal scenario for Tony Pollard. So thank you guys all so much for watching this video. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure that you do hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hitting the like button, and follow me on Twitter at NotoriousFNTSY. I love you guys all so much. Thank you for all the support recently we have seen on the channel. I love you guys. Have a great rest of your guys' day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with the must start and must sit wide receivers of the week. As always, guys, good boy.